Hello everyone, good morning. Today we're going to discuss about RODC. RODC means read-only domain controller and RODC account, pre-RODC account. So today we will discuss RODC and RODC account. So for RODC, I need a separate server. So for that, I'm going to create now. Please mute yourself. Guys, please mute yourself. Please mute yourself. Okay. For RODC, I'm going to create a virtual server, one virtual server. So after that, we will discuss what is RODC and what is RODC account. Okay. First of all, let me create because it will take time to install the operating system and all. So before we start the class, I will let create RODC. Okay, let's create RODC. Just creating folder RODC. Just copy the location and give the location. 40 GB. Click next, finish. Edit. Just creating a mission for RODC server. And need to install WinVOS. Okay, just starting the RODC virtual mission. So this is DC. Okay, so this is domain controller. So I'm creating a virtual machine and installing the Windows operating system in it for RODC server. So RODC is a read-only domain controller. So why we need this RODC in the real time? So we'll discuss. So let it install. Just waiting for installation. So we need to kick off this installation and we'll start the topic. Okay. English India, sorry. Click install. Next. We need to select GUI, accept the license agreement, and create new partition and format the partition and click next. Okay. So let the operating system install in this virtual machine. So we will discuss, meantime, we will discuss RODC. RODC is a read-only domain controller. RODC address some of the problems that are commonly found in the branch offices. So what are the branch office problems? For example, usually any company domain controllers in data centers. So for example, uh, our ARN company, let's say just ABC company domain controllers in Singapore data center. In Singapore data center. So for authentication purpose, what we are working in India, Hyderabad. So we need to go, our requests are going to Singapore. So this is a domain controller DC. Okay, our DC in Singapore data center. So our company headquarters in Singapore. So they place the domain controller in Singapore data center. Okay, so we are in Hyderabad, office in Hyderabad, office in USA. Okay, let's India. Let's take India. Here, US. Okay, these are office, India office and US USA office. But DC placed in Singapore because Singapore DC in Singapore data center. Okay, so who are working in India office, let's say, so these are the missions. Okay, here office missions. Here in India, these are the systems client missions. Okay, USA. Okay, so these are all client missions or member servers or other file servers, database servers, whatever. So these are the systems used to take permission authentication from DC, right? Without the DC, the users cannot log into these missions. So they need to take the login permissions from DC approval. So DC usually give the authentication approval for every system in India office and US office, right? So these are authentications we are requesting over the public network, right? Public network. We don't have any cable to run to Singapore data center from India office or US office. So there is a WAN. There is a WAN or public network. WAN. There is a WAN to connect. Oh, so over the WAN, we connect Singapore. uh, We connect Singapore data center to get the authentication from DC to our systems. So our systems connect to DC and get the approval from the DC to log in the user accounts in the machines. So this is usual process. So this is to take authentication approval takes a lot of time. Right? Over the public network, we need to get the approval for every time. Whenever we log into the missions, we used to get the approval from DC. DC is not near to us. It is in Singapore, so far from here. So for authentication also, at least takes 1 minute or 2 minutes to get the approval. So for every time, if this is happening, even the systems also slow and the applications, services, everything will be slow. So there is a solution. We can place a ADC, additional domain controller here. Let's take, this is ADC. This is a ADC. So these missions will not go to DC. Nearby DC is here. So all the missions will connect ADC to get authentication. So here I placed ADC. Okay. So near by DC. So all the missions connect to ADC. Fine. Okay. Now what will happen? Only ADC will replicate with DC. So if any changes will replicate with DC. DC is the root domain controller. So what are the changes happening ADC? ADC will replicate DC. What are the changes happening in DC? DC will replicate ADC. So not our entire LAN, only ADs. Only ADs. AD, additional domain control only, will replicate with DC. Not all the infrastructure, all the missions. Not all the missions. One minute. Not all the missions. So, okay, fine. Usually, we will have a ADC. So ADC will take care of our local network, local area network. So to fast authentication and make the services fast. Fine. And ADC and DC will usually replicate vice versa. If any changes happening, so vice versa, they will replicate each other. Okay, that's fine. If India doesn't have a proper power, continuous internet, I mean low continuous internet, continuous power, and inadequate support. So these are the problems are there in India. Let's say we don't have any problems right now. So many of the IT firms are running very smooth, and India infrastructure has been grown like anything. So let's say, for example, so in India, there is no proper internet, there is no low network bandwidth, inadequate expertise to support DC and power. There are many challenges here because of infrastructure is not developed that much level. So in that area, if we maintain ADC, it is not a good suggestion. So we'll get problems, because if this crash, or if inadequate, for example, the support expertise administrator is not there, if he did anything in the ADC, that will replicate to DC. One moment, guys. Sorry. So to maintain ADC in that particular environment is not suggestible. Then what should we do? So there is a RODC. RODC means read-only domain controller. So RODC is the best choice to maintain in particular area where there is no much low bandwidth, no proper power. If there is no proper power or no proper bandwidth, and if no proper expertise in that area, usually we place RODC. RODC means read-only domain controller. So what RODC do? So for RODC, you no need to having power continuous. I mean, if power go on off is okay, and bandwidth is also on less bandwidth, RODC will work. And if there is no expertise, technical person is also can maintain RODC. So here are the functionalities of RODC. Read only active-directed database. Read only means only read, no write. You cannot create a, let's place here RODC. So you cannot create any object in RODC. It is a read only. In the naming itself, read only active-directed database. You cannot write anything on the RODC. This is unidirectional replication, credential caching, administrator role separation. So in RODC, there is no replication from here to there, only replication from DC to RODC, no from RODC to DC. It is just read only. You cannot create any object in RODC. So RODC is only purpose to authentication to the local area network. So only for authentication purpose. RODC only uses for authentication purpose. Except the account password, RODC holds all the active directory object attributes that writable domain controller holds. So whatever the information DC having or ADC having, same information in RODC will have, but here only thing is you cannot create any object. It is like a newspaper. You can read it, you cannot write it. Okay. However, changes cannot be made to the database that is stored on the RODC. Changes must be made on the writable domain controller and then replicate back to the RODC. Okay. For example, if anyone join in India office, then how can we create a user in RODC? You cannot create RODC. What you will do, you create a user account in DC. Then DC will replicate RODC. That user account will be replicated here. But you cannot create an account here. So in USA, they're having a continuous power, continuous good network, and expertise are there. So you can place ADC there. But in India, like places where no infrastructure, proper infrastructure, we can place RODC. RODC is only purpose of authenticate the systems. So instead of going DC to Singapore, where the DC is there, you can go to in RODC, which is in our in India office. And for you no need to you no need to have a expertise to maintain this. This is just read only. So anyone can maintain this. Anyone can maintain this. And there is unidirectional replication. No from RODC to DC, DC to RODC only. So if anything you want to create in a Active Directory, create in DC, create in DC. So that will replicate RODC. Okay. So, however, the changes cannot be made to the database that is stored in the RODC. Changes must be made on writable domain controller, then replicate back to RODC. So that is what, if you want to create anything, you create here so that that will replicate to RODC. So you must have a question that if RODC doesn't have a credentials means passwords. RODC doesn't maintain passwords. Then how can the RODC give approval to the other systems to log in their missions? Right? Yes, there is a provision, credential caching. So by default, RODC doesn't store any user credentials, passwords. You must explicitly allow credentials to be cached on an RODC. So the passwords will not store in RODC, but you can cache the credentials in RODC. So in that way, the RODC can cache the credentials, but does not maintain the passwords. But you can cache the credentials. Like, so if you open the browser, just open the browser and browse any website. But browser doesn't store the website name. You remember that. Browser never ever save the website name in his memory, but it is cache that URL. That is cache, browser cache. So likewise, here RODC will not store the user's passwords, credentials, but it it can cache the credentials. So that is called caching, credential caching. And administrator role separation. So what this administration role separation? So you no need to maintain, you no need to you no need to just maintain a expertise support here to maintain this. So you can delegate this your role to some fresher or some person who can manage RODC. So you can delegate local administrative permissions for an RODC to any domain user without granting that user any user rights for the domain or other domain controllers. You can give the permissions to anyone to maintain the RODC with a normal user account. You don't need administrator to log in and maintain this. Any normal user can maintain RODC. You don't need to give any permissions. So normal user can easily log in and maintain this. Just it is a read only. Keep it, keep this in your mind. This is a read only. Nothing will happen. Nothing will happen. Whatever changes happening, those changes will always replicate from DC to RODC. That's it. So in this way, the branch user can delegate ability to effectively manage and perform maintenance work on the servers, such as upgrading drivers in branch office, RODC only, without compromising the security of rest of the domain. And here you don't need any data center, because RODC you can place in a server room uh, with a continuous power or internet. That's it. There is no even the power go on or off also okay. And RODC in RODC doesn't need any much facilities. There is not required server state environment. So this RODC also works like a normal server. Normal server. Okay. And it doesn't require any security. So you no need to worry about the security of RODC. It is just read only. If someone stolen RODs also, they cannot do anything. It is a read only. They cannot do anything. It's a read only. So even inside security and outside security. So RODC is the best choice where the infrastructure is not properly developed. We can place RODC. Okay. So any questions so far?
No, sir.
Okay, good. So the system is ready. Now we will configure RODC in this mission. So to configure RODC, you don't need to see, for example, here DC, there is a big database, Active Directory database. So to replicate from here to RODC may take time, right? may take 1 month or 2 months, maybe take half year also. Because see, RODC is a new server which need to uh, pull the data from DC to RODC. Everything should be updated. Everything should be sync in RODC, right? Whatever the database here, the database should be synced in RODC. So to sync the database, even we don't have a much bandwidth in India office, let's say. So what should we do? How can we restore the entire database into RODC? So if you leave it as it is, it may take 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, or 6 months, because here the less bandwidth, internet bandwidth is less. So slowly it will replicate, but it takes a lot of time. Then what should we do? We can restore the database, Active Directory database. We take the backup of DC and restore in RODC, so that once the database is restored, so next what are the, if any new changes comes in the DC, those changes only replicate. Because so if we are giving chance to replicate themselves, it takes time. So if you want to replicate quickly in RODC, then you need to take the backup of DC and restore in RODC. That is called IFM. In IFM, install from media, means we can take the backup to any pen drive or CD or any to media and restore in RODC. Restore in RODC. So first we let's configure RODC. Okay. First, let's configure IP address 192.168.223 and 99. I'm just giving 99. What is the DC IP here? 10. 192.168.223, 99 and 192.168.223, 10. Okay. Now IP is configured. Okay, let's change the name. This is naming convention is not good. Like Win RODC, or you can give RODC, whatever name, RODC. Okay. Restart later. Let me install VM tools. This is important. So now the server is ready. Then we will configure RODC. Okay. Any questions so far?
No, sir.
Okay, good. So what is account? Pre-account. See, usually earlier days, if any baby, boy, girl born, then we usually search for names, right? After born, we search for names. Nowadays, we are searching for names before the baby born. So same like pre-account. Pre-account means there is no RODC, but we can create a account in the Active Directory before creating a server. Before creating a server, that is pre-create RODC account. So before born, how we are creating name, I mean searching name. Likewise, here there is no RODC server yet in the domain controller. Okay, so we can create a computer account before creating RODC. See, so far in arn.com domain, there are WinAD, WinADC, and client. These are the only missions. So now I can create a account. Now I can create a account. Let me create an account here. Go to activity users and computers, pre-create read-only domain controller account. So you can create, click next. Now you can give a name. Now you can give a name. Click next. Here win-RODC. See, there is no win-RODC in the domain right now, but I'm creating a name now. How the before baby born, how we are searching names. I'm just creating a computer account before win-RODC. Click next. India. Okay. And this computer is not even joined in the domain. It is just a work group mission. It is just a work group mission. See, if you want to see, go to local server. Work group mission. This is a work group mission. But here I'm creating a computer account called win-RODC. So users. So initially, if you want to create user initial replication, so permissions like find. So I'm giving, okay, and no, any other users, let me find. Like test one, Raju Ravi, like S1. Okay, I'm just giving S1. Okay, click next. Or you can add multiple users also, or you can add one user also. Finish. See, the RODC account has created. See what here saying, unoccupied DC account. Actually, there is no server called win-RODC. There is no server called win-RDC, but we created a name before. Before the server, we just created a name that is called account. We created an account before server create win-RODC. Okay, that is the reason. See here, it is a disabled state and unoccupied DC account. So no computer is occupied this account. No server occupied this name. No server occupied this name. Okay, now we will configure RODC. Okay. Okay, and to cache some users, let's cache some users. Okay. What should we do? go to, initially some users should be cached in the RODC. Active Directory users and computers. And IT sales. Okay, let me cache some users. Add account. Okay. Allow, there is a group called allowed RODC. Check. See, allow RODC passwords replication. So this is the group where we can cache our credentials. Okay. Okay. So the add to group operation successfully. So I cached these credentials to RODC group account. Now let's configure. So before running this, we need to take the backup. We need to take the backup of this. Let's assume this is a big database. So this Active Directory database having very lot of users, groups, and computers, everything. So to replicate from Singapore to India over the WAN, it is tough. So what should we do? We take the backup of this Active Directory. Okay. So for that, I need to create a shared folder, IFM. Okay. And give share permissions to everyone. So in real time, we will not give to sharing permissions to everyone, only one user. Okay, I'm just giving everyone. So this is the path. Okay, done. Now go to command prompt here. Right click on it, run as administrator, ntds util, ntds util, enter. Give ntds, ntds. One moment. Control C. Let's ntds util. Okay, correct. Enter. One moment. Oh, sorry. Here we need to active instance. Sorry, active instant NTDS. I forgot this active instance NTDS. We need to type active instance NTDS. Enter. Oh, sorry. Very sorry, guys. Activate. Active, not active. Activate. Okay. Activate instance NTDS. Yes, correct now. So now give IFM. IFM. Yeah, IFM, correct. IFM. Click. And where you created the folder, here you need to give. Just create this wall, create this wall, RODC. Okay. So here where I created DIFM, D colon IFM. create a sysvol RODC, create a sysvol RODC TIFM. Enter. So now the backup has started. So taking backup. Now, if done, quit, done. Minimize this. See, sysvol and activated database in place. Okay. Now log into this mission, RODC mission. Still, it is not RODC. It is just a work group mission. It is a, if you want to check, you can check. Net accounts. It's just server. It's a just server. Because of operating system, it is a member server. So it is a work group mission. Nothing else in this mission. Okay. Now go to dashboard and click add roles and features. Click next. Click next. Click next. Select Active Directory, Active Directory Domain Services, Active Directory Domain Services, and click Next. Click Next. So here you need to select, if group policies doesn't select, you need to select. So it is already selected. Click Next. Click Next. Restart if required. Yes. Install. So I'm just enabling Active Directory services. Any questions, guys? Okay, let it install. And just checking this. See, it is still in disabled state because there is no server. Okay, still we are installing Active Directory in this machine. Hope you get it why we need RODC in the real time. Okay, so click here, promote this server to domain controller. So add a domain controller to existing domain. Add a new domain to an existing forest. Add a new forest. So add a domain controller to an existing domain. See, domain already existing domain is arn.com. So I want to add this server to existing domain. Okay. So select this and give domain name arn.com. Okay. Change here. ARN/administrator. Okay. And password. Okay, fine. Now click next. Just it is running. Okay. Use existing RODC account or reinstall this domain controller. See, use existing RODC account means, so this is existing account, computer account. So I'm just asking to use existing RODC account. So already this account is there, computer account is there. I'm asking this system to use existing account and give administrator password. Okay, click next. Here the important step is install from media, IFM, install from media. See, for RODC, to replicate complete Active Directory database in the DC is tough for RODC, because here the RODC, where we placing RODC having less bandwidth and no proper power. So if suddenly power gone, the replication will be stopped. So when we replicate, when the replication is happening between DC and RODC, power should be 20, no uninterrupted power we need, uninterrupted internet we need. So there is no facility like in India. So what should we do now? So we have already took the backup of Active Directory to IFM folder. So copy this backup and restore here. So here the place where we can restore the database. Click install from media, select path. So first of all, we need to copy that backup, win hyphen ADC IFM, right? So copy this, copy to local drive. IFM, copy to local drive. Okay, copied. Good. Now click here and where C drive IFM, select. And to which domain controller that RODC need to replicate in further. So anyway, the backup will restore here, but in future updates, from which domain controller RODC need to update. So I'm just giving this. This is a primary domain controller. I'm giving a server name where RODC need to replicate in future. So replicate from this server. I'm giving to RODC replicate this server. Click next. So as you all know that this is a database folder, log folder and sysvol folder. Click next. Click next. Install. Now the RODC is started installing. See, after completion of RODC installation, this mark will gone. This mark will gone. Any questions, guys? So hope you get it. RODC. Why? What is the purpose of RODC? Yeah, it's done. Now it is restarting. Yeah, restarting. After restart, this disable. So now this computer account will active, will enable or active. So I given this, you read for interview perspective, it's notes. So everything is loading. Now the system is, see, become RODC. If you see, go to activity use and computers. You can see all the updates, all the objects, because we restored the database, right? So you can see all users. What are the objects in the DC? All the objects restored here. Okay. So from now onwards, if any object or anything created in the DC, that will replicate to RODC. Okay. So let's refresh here. See, still it is in disabled state. Just refresh. Refresh. Now see, the disable mark is gone and unoccupied. There is no unoccupied. It is a read-only domain controller. It is a read-only domain controller. Okay. And let's check whether it is a read-only or not. Okay. So let me try to log in with S1 user. Okay. S1 user we cached, right? S1, S2, S3, all users cached. Now I'll try to open Active Directory, use and computers. Let me create a user here. Vikram. So will the user create here? Guys, will the user create here? No. See, Windows cannot create object Vikram because access denied. It is a read-only domain controller. You cannot do anything. You cannot create anything. You cannot create anything. It is just read-only for local authentication purpose. And if you want to delete anything, you cannot. So you don't have a sufficient privileges to delete. You cannot delete or you cannot create anything. Just it is a read only. Okay. If you create here, for example, that will replicate. So let me create here Vikram, a user. Okay. I created Vikram here. See, there is no Vikram here. Just refresh it. See, you can see Vikram here. So that's all for today. Any questions?
Sir,
Yes.
sir, window 8 download చేశారా sir?
Okay. Regarding that, okay, let me stop the recording.